Oh, sorry, forgive me.
I don't know. Versus.
Yeah, they are great.
Okay, so I've got everyone on, so
Everybody's on.
be careful about any comments you're making. Everybody will hear them. All right, good morning. It is 9:04 a.m. We are calling the October 9th meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority to order. Do you need to take roll call?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any public comments?
None received.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to item 2, adoption of the minutes of the board meeting from September 11th, 2019.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Moving to item 3, consider and approve a resolution authorizing the redemption and defeasance of approximately $3.49 million of Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority pass-through toll transportation revenue bonds. This is Series 2008 for State Spur 601.
Yes, ma'am. Ray Mateus, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. Today we have with us two folks that are going to help walk us through this item. First up, we have Emily Hundley, who's part of the Hilltop Securities group. They serve as our financial advisor. She's going to walk you through the background and the details of this transaction. And then we also have Paul Braden, who's part of our bond counsel team, which is Norton Rose Fulbright. So first up, Ms. Hundley.
Good morning. As Raymond mentioned, my name is Emily Hundley. I work with Hilltop Securities. We serve as financial advisor to Camino Real, RMA. I'm here to present this presentation, which is the partial cash defeasance redemption of the Series 2008 bonds. I believe you all have the presentation in front of you. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As you turn to slide 3, this is the schedule of debt service at the time we issued the bonds back in 2008. The total par was $233,355,000. We have had several prior redemptions on this 2008 series, a total of $46,615,000. Series maturity 2021 and 2022 have been fully redeemed, and we show which maturities we have priorly redeemed. This is slide 5 is the remaining debt service on the series 2008. There's about $23 million left, and the final maturity is 8/15/2020. Going on to slide 7. This is what I'm here to propose today. We have approximately the Camino Real has approximately $3.63 million available in the redemption fund to use to a partial cash defeasance. As mentioned, there was $909,955,000 outstanding par. Of that, we propose to refund or redeem $3.49 million. That is associated with maturity 8/15/2020. It is currently callable, and the remaining par after this partial cash defeasance would be $6,465,000. We're proposing the cash defeasance date of November 15th, 2019. The cash defeasance available is, as mentioned, that $3,636,000. And then the candidate that we are going to defease is going to be a partial of that 8/15/2020. Slide 9 shows just the sources and uses of this. There is a small fee of $3 million associated with that, with this redemption. And money still available in the redemption fund will be about $98,000. We like to keep a little small balance in there just to keep that's consistent with what we have done in the past. And our last page of this presentation is probably the most important. This is the remaining debt service after the cash defeasance. This defeasance of $3.9 million saves the authority a net of $134,419. That is net of the principal redeem, which is the $3.49 million, and then the interest associated with that principal due up until the redemption date, which is about $45,000, and then the small fee of $3,000. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
So there are funds in an existing RMA account which will be used to pay down this debt obligation.
Okay.
And did I hear you say that there will remain an amount in the RMA account of $98,000?
From the yes, currently we have, I think that was slide 9 represents it well. Go back there. There is about $3,636,000, and we were trying to use as much of that, but we want to keep about $100,000 in the fund available, and it continues to grow. And so, yes, that's what we wanted to keep over.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we need an action?
Actually, if we could ask Mr. Braden to speak with you all, I want him to walk you through the resolution and the actual transaction that occurs.
Okay.
I have one further question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, for Raymond. Okay, this is mainly associated with the Spur 601.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we see August of 15 there for that as the completion date for this. How is that correlate to the January 2021 total payoff, which was a date we had flying around out there?
So I'm not certain which August date you're referring to.
This coming August of 2020.
So that is when we will make our last payment to cover the debt service.
Okay.
We will still get one more payment in February of 2021, which will include the amount you're referring to.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Good morning, Paul Braden with Norton Rose Fulbright, bond counsel to the RMA. Maybe I'll just, for the benefit of the newer board members, maybe I'll take a second and just talk about this transaction, because what we're doing today, this transaction was designed to do this. And it was designed to do this in order to allow the RMA to achieve savings and actually result some greater amount of money at the end of the contract. So these bonds are pass-through toll revenue bonds, which means there's a contract from TxDOT to the RMA by which TxDOT sends money to the RMA two times a year to pay debt service on these bonds. But it's not just designed just to pay debt service. They have a set amount that they pay every month within minimums and maximums depending on the car count. And so the minimum amounts come in every month regardless of the car count. And when we set this up in 2008, there were some parameters that we didn't know, and Raymond can recall this because he was, of course, at the time was there too. But when you set it up and you're building a road, you don't know when the road's going to be completed, and you don't know what the car counts are going to be. You do negotiate, and you have this contract with TxDOT, so you know what your minimums and maximums are. And so we structured it such that if the developer opened the road sooner, then we would start getting money, the RMA would start getting payments sooner. And if their car count was higher, the RMA would get money higher. So what we did is the last two maturities of this bond deal, 2021 and 2020, had early calls. So we did this deal in 2008. Those two were priced and structured to have a 2011 call, so only 3 years. And so the RMA paid a little higher interest rate at that time to get those early calls. But what it allowed you to do is, as this money came in sooner and this cash started building up into the account, the RMA could pay down the debt earlier, and it has successfully done that, and this is the last time it's going to do that. And because of that, that's why you don't have a payment in 2021, and that's why the payment that's going to come in 8/15/2020 is so much smaller. The idea being, and the way it should work, is you'll pay off all the bonds on 8/15/2020, and then there'll still be some money coming in from the TxDOT contract because they're contractually obligated to pay a certain amount for the road, and that money will be used partly for a deferred developer payment, because the deal that the RMA negotiated with the developer was, we don't know how this stream's going to work, so we'll pay you this lump sum at the beginning, and you say, this additional amount that you'll get paid, you'll defer that until the end of the bond's paid off, and we'll see if we have money to pay you for that. So it's all working the way it's supposed to be, and it's really kind of enjoyable, I'll tell you. As what we did in 2008, we structured all these things, we thought this through. Hilltop did some modeling, and then we thought, okay, this should work, and now I see the end of this deal coming, and it did work as designed. So it was purposeful in terms of what everybody's doing. With that said, what's before you is a resolution. It's a relatively simple resolution, and all it is authorizing to move forward with this redemption and defeasance. And if you adopt this resolution, it'll authorize Raymond to instruct the trustee to make payment, and attached to the resolution is a letter of instructions to the trustee to make payment. So the trustee will do this as instructed on November 15th, and they'll call bonds, and again, it'll move on in its course. I'm open for any questions.
I have a couple real quick. So it sounds like there's a max and a min that the state is going to refund us based on travel. I assume that this is done better than had been anticipated as far as traffic count?
No, I don't think.
No, we received the minimum each time, unfortunately.
Okay. And can you, two things. In the future, is there a possibility that we could have gotten Ms. Hundley's presentation beforehand? Maybe I could have reviewed it a little bit more and had some more questions on it.
You did.
I did get that one, okay.
Yes, sir.
There you go. But what is the interest savings in on the early retirement on this?
It's a little under $200,000.
$200,000.
We don't receive all of that. We have to pay some costs out of that savings, but it's about $200,000.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, discussion and action on board resolutions related to the design of the John Hay Street Extension Project in order to authorize, A, the chair to execute an interlocal with El Paso County for funding, B, executive director to execute work authorization number 1 with CEA Engineering Group for design services, and C, the executive director to execute work authorization number 37 with Atkins North America for design oversight services.
Thank you. So as read into the record, this item includes the 3 subparts which all deal with John Hayes. This is a design project. This is a new project that we will be pursuing in partnership with the County of El Paso. We do have a representative from the county here should you have any specific questions of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through very briefly the details of this particular project. We also, of course, have a representative from our general engineering consultant team here should you have any technical questions. But I'm going to touch very briefly on the project purpose, location, scope, timelines, and then a requested board action under this item 4. John Hayes Street Extension Project. This is a county project which is being, we currently plan on beginning the design process during the fall of 2019. This is not a 2013 Comprehensive Mobility Plan project, meaning that it's not receiving any vehicle registration fee bond proceeds. Instead, the funds are actually coming from the federal and state component through the MPO, with the remainder coming out of the county's general fund, I believe. So those are being provided to the RMA through the county. In fact, that's what you see under item 4A in the interlocal with the County of El Paso. The RMA in this particular project will be responsible for project design activities and related oversight using the county's funds. I mentioned there are some federal funds. In this instance, this is a little bit unique in that the County of El Paso has a local project advance funding agreement directly with TxDOT to access those federal funds. They also have, of course, their general fund that's providing the remainder. The interlocal under 4A then provides those 2 funding sources, provides those funds over to the RMA through that interlocal, and that's how this one will work. The project design will be completed by a design firm hired by the RMA, with oversight being completed by the RMA's general engineering consultant. In fact, that last bullet there identifies items 4B and 4C. 4B then is the design agreement with CEA Engineering Group. If you recall, some time ago we went through a new indefinite deliverables contract selection process whereby we selected 5 different firms so that we could begin rotating projects through that new group of firms. This is the first one out of the chute for that program, and we're using CEA under 4B. 4C then is the general engineering consultant work authorization. This one is number 37, and they will provide oversight for the design activities. This is the project. We're looking at about 3 miles of roadway up. The northern project limit hits Montwood. The southern project limit hits Pelicano. Here's another view of that. And the dashed line here shows you what it looks like in reference to our 2013 Comprehensive Mobility Plan. So it certainly feeds into the same program of activities that we're doing out there. The work is looking to design the extension and reconstruction of John Hayes, approximately 3 miles of additional pavement, flex base, raised median, curbs, sidewalks, ADA ramps, illumination, all those normal activities that you see us bring forward with these county projects. I mentioned the limits are from Pelicano down to, or up to Montwood. The role of the county, we briefly discussed that, is to provide the funding for the project out of general fund and federal funding opportunities, and also to provide owner decisions and guidance for project issues that require their input. The role of the RMA then, of course, is to prepare and finalize the project design and provide the oversight for those design services. Then, hopefully, we will be back to you once we are nearing the end of the design program with a plan for construction activities and procurement. So the requested board action then relates to items 4A, B, and C. Looking for a motion to approve board resolutions for the chair to execute an interlocal with the county for the design funds under A. Under B, then, resolution to authorize the executive director to execute work authorization number 1 with CEA Engineering Group for design services. And then under C, looking for authorization for the executive director to execute work authorization 37 with Atkins North America for oversight services related to those design services. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval.
Question, Madam Chair. Mr. Tejas, I'm just really curious, unless I've missed, I don't think I've missed that many meetings. This is kind of the first time that there's been any discussion of this project. Am I correct, or has it been mentioned before?
You know, I was thinking about that. I think this may be the first time we present it, so I apologize for that. This was something that we had been talking to the county about for some time. We were trying to figure out the funding sources. At one point, I believe we talked about using vehicle registration fee, but we never had it formalized to a point where we could bring it to the board. We may have mentioned it as one of the potential projects when we were pursuing the indefinite deliverables contract, but never in any detail like today, which is why, in fact, we've developed this PowerPoint to give you the details.
Well, I'm really curious. I mean, it's their, whatever the county wants to do, but I'm curious why this project comes in. I know it's not using the vehicle registration funds, but ahead of all the other projects, because this will take time and resources away from the other projects that are in the queue to get done under the plan.
Good morning, Sal Alonso, Transportation Program Engineer for El Paso County. Yes, this project is identified in the 2045 Destino plan with the MPO. These funds, the reason why this project is top priority for the county is because the funds that we secured for this project is 2019 funds, so we had to obligate those funds. So that's the reason why these funds were identified about a year ago and went into the contract with TXA, with the La PAFA. So this is the reason why this project is one of the top priority projects in the county, aside from what we're doing with the VRF funding with the 2013 CMP. So this is I guess, transition from wrapping up all the projects that we have in the 2013 and then venturing into the new projects that are identified in the 2045 Destino model.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think under the TxDOT policy now, that if they obligate funds, if you haven't put them in a queue by a certain deadline, they'll take them away. They'll de-obligate them, so.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tez just reminded me, this project is not only identified in the 2045, but is also identified in the current study that the county is doing. As you remember, a few months ago, we came in, Mr. Tez presented an interlocal with the county to do a master thoroughfare plan. So this is one of the projects identified from that master thoroughfare plan. So we're starting to identify projects in the need. And this is a project that is critical for the region. As you may see in the map that was shown in the previous slides, this will provide a north and south connection that the area doesn't have right now. Everything right now has to filter up to Pelicano, head west, and then onto Loop 375 in Zaragoza. And those two roads right now are over congested. So this will provide a reliever for the Montana Vista area, the county, and then the Horizon area as well. So.
Okay.
I, like Mr. Wardy, think this is a surprise for one thing, but number two, I think it's a fantastic project. Yeah. This really kind of helps complete that whole thing, with the exception of that gully in Mission Ridge or whatever. However you're going to solve that, I haven't figured out. But I'm really impressed by this. I am surprised that this is so far along. This is the first time we've heard about it, but I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic.
So, it might be helpful, maybe next month. I know we were going to have the MPO come in next month to kind of do an overview of kind of the next, I don't know what we call it, the next queue of the planning, like the 2008. We did the 2008 plan. I think they're looking at the next rendition so we can see what the role is for us. It might be helpful maybe if you could come back and sort of refresh us in terms of what's in the queue at the county.
Yes,
Sort of
absolutely.
both in the short, immediate term, like what's active now, what's like short term, and what maybe their planning horizon looks like. I think that will help us so that we're all on the same page. We've got some new board members too.
Yes, ma'am. I
If you don't
totally
mind
agree. I
doing-
think it's a great
I think
idea.
it's worth us spending some time at the next meeting, just sort of getting refreshed on all these different project opportunities. Even if TxDOT, if someone from TxDOT could come in and kind of share with us like what their plans are.
Certainly, I can do that.
Because we're trying to look at what opportunities could the RMA play in helping these various jurisdictions achieve some of their transportation infrastructure goals
Certainly.
quicker than they might otherwise be able to do so.
So what I can do is I can share with you the projects that we're currently working with the county on developing,
Yes.
but then also share with you what the county is looking at least preliminarily, in relation to their master thoroughfare plan that's in development now. So we
Sure,
can
that'd
touch
be
on
great.
what we're looking at and what they're looking at into the future.
That'd be perfect. And
Yes, ma'am.
then
We
if
can do that.
Eduardo could just give us kind of the bigger picture, like what's on the horizon with the state, as well as the city, and the 5-year. And then it's the 5-year plan that's funded, and then the next one is at the 20-year.
Good morning, Eduardo Calvo, Executive Director of the MPO. Yeah, absolutely. Raymond and I were just talking about that, and we'll be more than happy to be here next month to give you all a presentation on that. Just one more thing that regarding this project that I think is very important is that the county is, with this action right now, is to get the project designed. So, but the real question is finding the money for construction. As we all know, once a project is designed, once you have, not just the engineering, but the environmental clearance and all that, those projects become a lot more competitive for funding. So it's always been, our recommendation to the local governments like the county or the cities and municipalities, get your projects designed and ready so that they can compete for funding. So, we're excited to see that this is going to get designed and it'll be competitive for funding.
All right, thank you very much. And then we'll look forward to the presentations next month. So are there any other questions about this particular item? If not, can I entertain a motion to approve all the item 4, A, B, C collectively?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Item 5, presentation, discussion, and action on the Pelicano Drive widening project. This is a 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan project.
Yes, ma'am. So this one you have heard about, and actually this one moved a little quicker than we had anticipated, which is good news as well. So I want to walk you through this one. We're going to talk about the project purpose, location, scope, and timelines for this one. No board action is required. The Pelicano Drive widening project is an El Paso County project from the 2013 County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. This one's planned for letting in fall of 2019 and includes El Paso water improvements. The construction project budget from this one will come from federal funds and also county vehicle registration fee bond proceeds, as well as water utility funds for their component. The RMA will enter into agreements with El Paso County and El Paso Water, whereby the RMA will be responsible for construction management of the project, and the county and water will provide access to funds for the project. The construction management will be completed by the RMA through engagement of its GEC. This is Pelicano Drive from Loop 375 heading out to Berryville, which is also Darrington. Here's another view of that project. And this is what it will include: 6-lane divided roadway. The normal things that you see in the county projects: raised median, concrete pavement, curb gutter, sidewalk, landscaping, illumination, etc. Role of the county is similar. On this one, they will provide the construction funding for the project. They will provide owner input, and the role of water will do the same on their the construction for the water utility components as well. The role of the RMA on this one is to prepare and let project for construction bids. This one is actually a construction project as opposed to design, like John Hayes. We will also provide construction management services, which includes oversight, engineering, testing, inspection, and record keeping through our general engineering consultant. Here's the timeline to date on this one: September 25th. Federal and TxDOT approval to advertise the project was received. By the 29th, we issued the first advertisement in the El Paso Times. October 6th was the second advertisement. October 29th, we believe that the bids will be open. That's proposed, of course, subject to change, but that is our current plan. We also have a question and answer period within that time frame, so that oftentimes can push the bid. We're not anticipating that just yet, but I will certainly keep you posted. November 13, then, we're looking to bring back a request for award to the low bidder. That's our current schedule, again, subject to change. Here's some construction timelines. So we're looking for possible start date in November or December of this year. We're using a standard work week, Monday through Friday. Anticipate 399 working days to complete, approximately 19 months. Of course, we'll credit weather days, and we're looking for completion sometime in summer of 2021. Again, all of this is subject to change. But that's what I have with you. So no action is required on this one. This is simply a briefing.
Question, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Mr. Tejas, what's the preliminary cost estimate on this project?
I don't know the answer to that. 28 million on the construction side is the
Thank
estimate.
you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? So there's no action?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to item 6 then, which is presentation and discussion on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan and the Wynn Road Project.
This one, as you will recall, we receive a briefing each month in the event that the RMA, or that I, as Executive Director, approve any change orders. Today we have with us Ed Grafino from our General Engineering Consultant Team, and he'll brief you on the change orders approved this prior month.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. Ed Grafino with the GEC. There's a PowerPoint presentation. This is recently approved change orders. It includes 3 change orders and no change orders received that require board action. First project is East Lake Phase 1. Change order number 9, it's a continuously reinforced concrete pavement repair and testing. The settlement agreement was approved last month between the business contractor and the RMA. That was presented to the board and executed. This is the change order for the contractor to get paid. And the change order amount is $8,767.50 that has been approved. This is, as far as our percentage for total change orders, we are at 3.07%. Any questions in regards to East Lake?
I'm going to keep going.
Okay. The next one is the Vista del Sol. As far as the ongoing project, change orders 1 through 6 have been presented to the board. The same thing with 7 through 11, and 12 through 16, and also number 17. This change order is number 18 to rebuild concrete ramp and install asphalt. That was removed due to the installation of the sanitary sewer and the water lines. El Paso Water is responsible for the change order amount, and this is $51,786 that has been approved. If you look at the total percentages under VRF county funds, we're at 5.58%, and for El Paso Water, we are at 3.65% in regards to the total bid amount. And the last change order is the ongoing project there at the Zaragoza Port of Entry, Pan American Drive and Wynn Road. If you look at the yellow highlight, that's Pan American. The blue is Wynn Road, that's going to be widened, and then the red is the extension as far as a brand new roadway that's going to be connecting to the Rio del Norte Drive roadway. This is the first change order on this project where we removed the existing stub out and connected the proposed 12-inch PVC to a sewer pipe. Again, the change order will be paid by El Paso Water at $3,176.01, and it has been approved. Change order amounts were at 0.03% for El Paso Water on this project. That concludes all the change orders for this month. Any questions?
Any questions? Do you need an action on this presentation only? Okay. So we don't have to ratify anything? All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much. Okay, item 7, discussion and action on a board resolution to authorize the executive director to enter into a master contract for engineering services with ACOM Technical Services, Inc.
Yes, ma'am. I mentioned this earlier. The RMA authorized a procurement for indefinite deliverables. What that really means is an on-call list for professional engineering services. back in June. The board selected 5 specific firms. We've been negotiating those agreements. 4 out of the 5 have been executed, and this is the last one today for you under item 7 with AECOM Technical Services, Inc. It's very similar to each of the other master contracts. So as a reminder, the way that these work is that we will have one master agreement with each of the firms, and as tasks or projects come up, we will issue an individual work authorization. The master contract sets all the boilerplate language, the range of fees and that sort of thing. The individual work authorizations then set the specific scope per task or per project and the fees and that sort of thing for those individual projects. So you will begin seeing those coming before the board soon. In fact, actually, as we discussed under item 4, John Hayes, that is the first work authorization being pursued under this original IDC procurement. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this master contract.
What's the procedure to determine who gets what?
It's the board ranked the original 5, so they have ranking, and as the projects come up through the process, and that's how we're awarding them. So it's really passage
So it
of time.
rotates, right? So
Yes,
number
ma'am.
1, the first one goes to number 1, then to number 2, then you just rotate
That's
through?
correct.
And if they're not available, you just skip and go to the
That's
next
correct.
one?
In the event that there's perhaps a conflict or something like that, then we would skip them and continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So do we need an action on this?
Yes, please. There's a
Okay.
board resolution.
So if there are
So
no
moved.
further questions, we have a
So moved.
motion? Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. So we'll move on to item 8. This is presentation and discussion on the following performance reports for the 4th quarter of fiscal year 2019. A, the general financial activity. B, investment report. C, the El Paso Bike Share Sun Cycle Program. And then D, general engineering consultant team's use of local resources. Mr. Studer?
Good morning. Robert Studer, Director of Finance, Camino Real RMA. You may have noticed there's no backup for item number 1. We are working with the city right now to close out our 4th quarter of the last fiscal year. I spoke with Mr. Parker a couple weeks ago when we discussed whether we wanted to bring a preliminary report to the board or go ahead and wait until we complete the audit process. And we agreed that we would wait until we close out the audit. And then we will take that audit to the Finance Committee first and then bring it to the full board.
Did we ever work out the renewal of the agreement with the city and like the issues that kind of were in the draft?
Not yet. So
Okay.
we've received a proposal from them that we're working through.
Okay.
And there are some complicating factors that we're just not prepared at this point. We've had some turnover of staff at the city. We don't have access to make entries in their systems. We have to propose them to the city. They have to review them and then post them on our behalf, so it takes a little bit longer than we would like. Bringing something to you for a year end this quick is just not something that's probably going to be feasible in the future. So it may be something we could do in November, a preliminary report, and then the audit when it's finished. But that's something we'll discuss with the Finance Committee. Second, just for notation, is the investment report. It was actually emailed to you, I believe, last week. In the future, that will always be emailed to you, but we had it on the agenda the last time we presented it, and I wanted to keep it here just to note that this will be the last time you'll actually see it on the agenda. And in the future, you'll just get an email. I hope to turn it around quicker next time. So this quarter will end in November. I hope to get it to you in December instead of in January in the future.
But the Finance Committee reviews it, right?
No,
Nobody-
not,
you're
no.
just gonna-
We
okay.
can start to review that quarterly with the Finance Committee. Since we weren't going to meet this month, we did not review it with the Finance
Okay,
Committee.
but I think as a matter of practice, it would be worthwhile for the committee just to review it with you.
I
It
think
doesn't
it-
have to come to, then you can just send it to the full board.
That'll work. I think that'd be great to get into further detail with the Finance
Yeah.
Committee to let them really pick it apart. Okay, so moving on to 8C. We've got our bike share program, the 4th quarter report. So we're going to talk through a summary of the activity, go through some program highlights, talk about the time and day usage, and then an update on our financials. So this is our 4th quarter. It is usually our best quarter of the year. The weather is nice, and people really get out and ride the bikes during the summer months. You'll see we've got the 4 quarters listed there. This was by far our best performing quarter. 5,700 rides was really, really nice. Combining that, it's 15,673 rides for the year, which is 2.8% increase over last year's ridership. And just as an FY, fourth quarter of FY18 was 5,232 rides, so about 450 more rides than the same period last year. There's my point I just made, that we bested the same period last year by about 500 rides. Of note, we added 16 e-bikes to our fleet. They were incredibly popular in August once we launched them. People, we could see through our activity data that they would go to a station, check out a regular bike, ride it to where they could get an e-bike, and then take that e-bike for a ride. So those are doing very well so far. Peak hours continue to be in the evenings. From 7 to 10, and as you'll see in a couple slides later, people really ride them on the weekends. We don't have nearly as much activity Monday through Thursday. San Jacinto is our busiest station, and it really connects customers to other stations, but that's where the bulk of our activity happens, is at San Jacinto. Pioneer Plaza, we talked about this during the last quarterly report, but it's worth bringing to your attention again. It was our second busiest station. We had to pull it out to the construction that's going on there. We're working with the city on relocating that. We've actually had a couple different options, and we just had a meeting with some city folks yesterday as we try to relocate that station and find the best opportunity for us.
Can you remind me where that actually is? What street that's on? Is that over by the plaza?
Yes, so Pioneer Plaza was actually in the Pioneer station right there at El Paso, where it becomes Oregon, Sheldon Court. So where that parking garage is going up now,
Okay,
that was
that's
going
what I
to
thought it
block the
was.
solar that we usually power our stations with, and so we had to pull that out, and they were doing some other work with utilities, and the city has the right to basically remove the station to access utility lines. One cool thing is B-Cycle, who we buy our equipment from, the docks and the bicycles. They're really pushing and improving the app. As a member, I use the app to check out bikes often, but they're really trying to push it towards just your average casual user to download the app and use it. Our usage on that really jumped during the last quarter. You can see 365 uses compared to only 89 in FY18. And then Sunday, June 30th was the busiest day with 180 trips. Again, 5,721 rides you can see in that red box. In the top of that same chart, you can see the 365 usage on the app. And then membership, we don't get a ton of rides, we don't have a ton of members, but those members did take about 10 rides on average during the month each, so or during the quarter each, so that's good. Here is our trip volume by membership type, and something I'd like to point out on that far right-hand side is you see the blue line in that top graph that jumps up. That's app usage. We had a group of about 5 people that on the last last Saturday in August, they took about 10 different rides. The group of 5 of them checked out bikes, rode around San Jacinto, checked them back in, checked them right back out. They rode for about 3 hours on our bikes, just checking them in, checking them back out. It was really interesting to see. Hopefully they are ambassadors and go out and tell other people about how much fun they had riding our bikes, but that's some really great usage. Below that, you can see that our, in the bottom chart, most people ride between 2 and 30 minutes. That makes sense because you get charged an extra $2 if you ride for longer than 30 minutes. So most people will check it in before the 30-minute mark. So most rides happen between those 2 and 30 minutes. Next, you can see by day of the week, that's really Sunday is the big contributor for us. Many people come down and ride them Sunday evenings. We actually get lines of people waiting to check out bikes. And then Friday and Saturday are the next 2 busy days. And then that bottom graph, you can see that during the day there's not a lot of activity. It spikes for sure in the evening hours. But interestingly, look on the far left, at 12 and at 1 a.m. we have more riders than we do during the hotter hours of the day. It's just kind of curious. So FY 2019 fourth quarter ridership was up about 9% from the prior quarter. We've talked about those 450, 500 trips. Full year ridership is up almost 3%. That's important to note. We lost our second busiest station going into our busiest time of the year, and ridership is still up. We also had our first competitor really in the area with scooters, and we still saw an increase during the time that they were in operation and without our second busiest station, so the program is doing well. We launched e-bikes. We are relocating that Pioneer Plaza station to help with San Jacinto and the loss of Pioneer. So Pioneer really served a purpose when San Jacinto would run out of bikes. People would go down to Pioneer because it's right there off of San Jacinto. We added a station at Oregon and Franklin, and that's helped to offset some of those losses, and people are now going up to that station. It's a small station, only 5 docks, but people are using that at those busy periods when there's no bikes at San Jacinto. We are renewing our sponsorship push. We had a potential sponsor that didn't quite work out, and so we are going to start that push up again as we need sponsorships. And then I left something off the presentation that I should have mentioned, that next week, Caesar, our operator, and I are going to Wisconsin. B-Cycle, who is the manufacturer of the docks and the bikes, the app, they do all of that stuff. They're hosting what they call B-Cycle World, and they're inviting the more than 50 different bike share operators that they have to come and learn about new bikes, new docks, updates to the app, but also to network and get to know other operators and get better best usage, best practices, those types of things, so that we can kind of pick up some things as we go there. And I believe Raymond and Caesar have attended that in the past, but I'm looking forward to going to that for the first time and hope to learn some new things that will improve the bike share. Finance, we talked about sponsorship. That bottom part of the chart, you can see we're down to about $267,000 remaining. We do anticipate making $80,000 this year, and our expenses will probably be about $200,000. So sponsorships are very important for us to keep this program going if it's going to survive. We do have the option of going out for grants and asking municipalities or the county or UTEP to contribute, but I think we'd like to go the sponsor route and get people involved. And as you can see, the rides and the usage continues to remain despite losing our second busiest station and having competition. So I think it's a good program. And with that, oh, sorry, one more thing. So you can see net revenue. We had more rides this year. I think we were handing out some promo codes that require downloading of the app to help spur app usage. But our revenue numbers in that yellow line is FY19, and the line just below it that starts to hide at the very end of the year is the prior year. So we tracked right with last year's revenue numbers. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I do.
Yes.
We were talking about the importance of sponsorships, and it sounded like, I don't have the numbers exactly right, but the cost to run this program is between, what was it, $200,000 and $300,000 a year?
$200,000.
It costs $200,000 a year?
Yeah, so we had a little bit higher because we bought those e-bikes and we bought some docks, but without those capital purchases, the actual operations, $200,000.
And then the revenue, 80,000, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
And therefore you talked about the importance of sponsorships. Describe for a second what the sponsorship opportunity is, and then how do you seek sponsorships? And maybe you rely a little bit on the board or word of mouth, but talk to us a little bit about the sponsorship.
So, really great questions. So we have a couple different options for sponsorship. One is a title sponsor who would be name on the bike, and I don't remember all the details, but title sponsor for the entire system. And then we have individual station sponsors. We've had the MPO do that recently, where they sponsored an individual station and a certain number of bikes, and they get their logo on those bikes and on a specific station. And then you get your name when somebody opens up the app. It will say powered by MPO or whatever that is. And we've got a little brochure that we can actually send to you, but that we would hand out. And the sponsorships is really going to be now for us, since that other one didn't seem to work out, is to really pound the pavement. We've developed a list of potential sponsors that we're going to go out and start meeting with and discuss the program with.
And then you said long-term, you really would prefer to find either increased ridership to increase revenue, combined with sponsorships to cover all the costs. And if that fails, I heard you say that you can go out and try to get grants, but ultimately, is there a risk that if sponsorships, grants, or ridership revenue doesn't cover this, that it would fail? I mean, nobody's projecting that, but I guess, is that the reality? What are the other sources of money, maybe, if
So if I can make one
that
point,
didn't work?
no bike share that I'm aware of actually is self-supporting through ridership only. They've all got some kind of angel sponsorship, somebody that's helping them, or they're getting grant funding. That's just the nature of the beast. I guess there is always that possibility. We would exhaust every avenue to find funding before we would let that happen.
Great. Sounds like a neat program.
Okay, thank you.
Through the MPO on the alternative transportation funding, is this a candidate? Where they have the transportation funding for like non-roads?
Yes, we've discussed that with the MPO over the years. There were some initial concerns. Actually, the original program, which was larger than the program we actually rolled out, was initially seeking and had been approved to receive congestion mitigation and air quality funds.
Yeah,
so there are actually
program.
several different categories that we would be eligible for. However, we've kind of pulled back because our initial rollout plus our expansion both relied heavily on MPO and City of El Paso funds. So we're trying to do the sponsorship, as mentioned by Mr. Studer, and try other alternatives before we go back to the grant approach through the MPO at least.
Maybe we could look at some sort of match where the MPO would fund up to this amount and we would be required to get the others through revenues and sponsorships matching to make it sustainable.
Certainly.
So, anyway, that's just something to think about
Yes, ma'am.
with
Thank
those
you.
categories.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
One last thought. When I looked at the existing balance and knowing what it costs and what our current revenues are, pretty quickly you run out of money in there. So it sounds like you're being proactive about it, but if the sponsorship opportunity didn't come through as quickly as you wanted, I don't know how quickly you need to start thinking about these grants, and I'll trust that you are, and maybe just leave that comment.
Great points, yes.
Are you all doing it in-house, going out to solicit?
Yes.
You're not working with an agency or an organization? Okay.
I have one more question. Are the expenditures, are those going to be pretty consistent ongoing, or about $200,000 a year ongoing?
Yes, I mean, we have, this year we bought 4 docks and we bought e-bikes, which increased our costs, but on a monthly basis, we have mostly fixed costs except for maybe parts, and those parts, sometimes we'll buy parts in a month, sometimes we won't. It really just depends on the usage of the bikes, but costs are mostly fixed.
So it's as lean as it can be from an expenditure standpoint? Okay.
Yes, sir.
You might want to look at the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. I don't know if
Okay.
you've looked at that yet.
Yes, so we've looked at both foundations, and as mentioned, we've got a list of.
Other grant opportunities?
That's right, yes, ma'am.
You probably want to pursue both paths, just to make sure you stay in the black.
And we're always open to sponsorships.
Okay,
All right, thank you all very much.
sure. Are we doing the general consultant team's use of local resources? Who's doing that one? Okay.
We have Mr. Fino.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure we didn't skip over it accidentally.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board members, Edgar Fino with the GEC. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here. This is a general engineering consultant team resources as far as local and non-local. I'll go over the labor expenditures and also the graphical representation and also the firm summary and any questions you may have. First slide is we're looking at 2019 quarter 42 from May 2019 to July 2019. I will show you the bar charts and the line charts in regards to the figures, but we're looking at focusing on quarter 42. This is a quarterly summary for quarter 42. The line chart, as far as the 79% in regards to local funds, and then non-local is the purple line at 21%. Dollar-wise, non-local, the total amount for non-local is the purple bar at $217,771.56, and the local labor is the gold bar at $806,431.45. These figures you can find on the previous slide in regards to quarter 42. The third slide is on the yearly average summary. This is the total amounts. This is quarter 41 and 42 for year 2019. The purple bar in regards to non-local labor is at $332,509.38, which includes quarter 41 and quarter 42. The local labor, which is the gold bar, is at $1,526,691.31. On the line chart, as far as percent local quarterly, we are at 79%, and as far as percent local cumulative, it's at 62%. And on the last side, this is the firm summary. Now, we did have to update the totals as far as the bottom line. Our formulas on the spreadsheets were not catching up. We weren't capturing quarter 41 and 42. We've updated that spreadsheet to move forward to capture all the true dollar amounts that are being spent as far as local and non-local. Any questions or comments?
Any comments, questions? Okay, thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Item 9, update on the Border West Expressway project.
We have one more presentation for you all. This one I thought was rather timely since TxDOT recently opened this roadway. Hopefully you've all been on it.
Where is it open from to?
The
Couldn't
the
figure
entire
it out.
roadway is open, so from
The whole
Coles,
thing?
yes, from Coles interchange downtown all the way up to basically the Sunland Park interchange.
Okay.
It's all open. So there's a bit of background, and I think most of the board has seen some of these slides before, but if you'll bear with me, I think it's a good recap of the project. So here's the project description. It's approximately 9 miles of new construction of Loop 375 from downtown, which is at the Coles interchange, which is a brand new interchange, by the way, out to the west at Racetrack Drive, which eventually connects up to the Sunland Park interchange with I-10. It is a 4-lane controlled access toll facility. It was designed and constructed as a toll facility. This project is actually part of a group of major projects that were intended to improve the movements in the region, including the GO10, I-10 Collector Distributor, Spur 1966, and I-10 Connect projects. These next two graphics are intended to give you the feel of what TxDOT was looking at. And this is I believe this graphic was put together by TxDOT back around like 2012, 2013, but it's a really good visual of how all the projects feed each other. So, and this PowerPoint, of course, will go up online right after the board meeting adjourns, but you can flip between this one and the next one. They connect. Basically, the prior one is to the left of this one. This is the first one that goes to the left of the next slide. Anyhow, to orient you, on the left-hand side, that is the end of the collector distributor project. So that you see that how that feeds into Border West Expressway. Up at the top of that little hump there, that's I-10, of course. That's where the Mesa Park project is, and of course, Border West Expressway is in purple. So when you look then, as you continue on I-10 to the east, then you see the Spur 1966 connection point, which made the connection between Schuster, Paisano, I-10, and the Border West Expressway. And then, of course, you continue with Border West Expressway down into the purple. And then I added I-10 Connect over to the right, which is really the connection, the really important connection that allows a more easy connection from I-10 to Loop 375. So prior to the I-10 Connect project, it wasn't particularly easy to get from I-10 when you're heading into downtown down to 375 to avoid the I-10 congestion point downtown. I-10 makes that connection very easy. And that's going to be particularly important, obviously, as we move into the I-10 reconstruction. You want to have that movement very easy so folks coming into town while downtown I-10 is being rebuilt, you want them to have the opportunity to go down to 375 as an alternative. So all of those projects, as you can see, tie in together and work together rather well. Here's the general project structure for the Border West Express. So we've discussed this at various points along the way. There was a memorandum of understanding between TxDOT and the Regional Mobility Authority originally back in 2014 with 2 subsequent amendments. But this is really kind of the summary of that. The project interest, as you know, the RMA contributed $500 million to the project. The remaining funds that are required to construct the project, whatever that amount is in the end, would be TxDOT's contribution. So the project ownership that each entity, whether it's the RMA or TxDOT owns, ties directly to the amount of the contribution versus the total project cost. So the original amount that was anticipated for this project was $639.5 million. With the RMA's $500 million contribution, that gave us a percentage interest of approximately 78.2%. That left TxDOT with 21.8% of the project interest. Now, to kind of drill down a little bit deeper, the project design and construction activities were actually the responsibility of TxDOT. So when you look at the project, TxDOT kept the obligation to hire a design-build firm and actually design and build the construction and manage the oversight for those activities. The RMA retained the responsibility for installing the toll collection equipment. In terms of operations and maintenance, then TxDOT became responsible for the roadway operations and maintenance through what's called a CRRMA, a comprehensive maintenance agreement that was built into their design-build project. So that's what they're pursuing to date. TxDOT, through their Texas Transportation Commission, which is the governing entity of TxDOT, established the toll rates. And then the RMA, through the original MOU and as amended, retained the responsibility for toll collection and operation. So that's the project structure through the MOU as currently amended. So these are the toll rates that were adopted by the Texas Transportation Commission back in 2014. I would mention, of course, these are subject to change, but these were the ones that were adopted in 2014. There's also an escalation process in there that would apply in future years. But again, all of that is subject to change as minute orders are. But you can see here there are 3 main gantries through the project. If you go from top to bottom, you're basically heading from the west side into downtown. So the first gantries that you see are what are referred to as the mainline plaza, north of Executive Center. And then you have the entrance and exit ramps at Executive Center. And then the third gantry is closer to downtown at Spur 1966. So those are technically the 3 tolling points where the 3 gantries are established. And you can see the rates there over to the right. I would mention this was structured as a time of day project, which means that you would have different pricing during the peak periods in the morning and in the afternoon than you would during the rest of the day and on the weekends. And you can see those periods broken out in that second column. And lastly, in terms of the way that the toll rates were established, it's based on the type of vehicle that you're using, anywhere from a 2-axle normal vehicle that you and I are driving each day to a 3, 4, 5, and a 6-axle vehicle. Each of those is priced differently, and you can see those laid out to the right there. One other note I actually should mention, ETC versus PBM. So electronic toll collection, those are the transponders, the toll tags that we've always talked about. The other alternative is pay by mail, which is PBM. That's the version where either your toll tag has no funds in it or you don't have one. In that scenario, we take pictures of your vehicle, we identify the registered owner of the vehicle, and we send you a bill in the mail. Of course, that is much more expensive than the electronic toll collection process. So that's why you see those columns carved out as well. In either event, of course, this PowerPoint, I think I mentioned this already, as with all the others, will be up online after the board meeting, so you can spend some time looking through here, and of course, give me a call with any questions. In terms of project development, Abrams Kiewit joint venture was selected by TxDOT to develop this project as a design build. The joint venture includes J.D. Abrams LP and Kiewit Infrastructure South Company. The notice to proceed on this one was originally issued by TxDOT back in October of 2014. The RMA then, for its responsibilities, hired CAPS Traffic-Com Transportation North America, which was actually previously known as Schneider. In either event, they are our toll integrator. They are the entity that planned, developed, and installed and operated the original Cesar Chavez toll equipment, and they have installed the new equipment on Border West as well. Atkins, as our general engineering consultant, provides oversight for those activities. The project, as you know, is open. And this is what it looks like. This was taken the day before it opened. I haven't mentioned it yet. I should have earlier. Of course, the project is open, but it is in a toll deferral period. That basically means tolls are at 0 right now. And so you notice on those variable message signs, the tolls are set at 0. So you see that throughout the roadway.
It said it was only going to be for a week. That's up. So
not
what's
quite.
the update on that?
Not quite. It will be sometime. So
sometime. That's
right. And we're talking to TxDOT about. In fact, I've got a note on one of the later slides to talk about what we're doing in this toll deferral period. But normally, just like we did with Chavez, we anticipated a promotional period where we invite the public to come get acquainted with the roadway, learn how it works, see how it works best for you in terms of your traffic patterns and that sort of thing. So we always anticipated a promotion period. So that's what we're in now.
I came in this morning on it, and I think I looked over to the left, and it looked like there was as much traffic on the toll road as there was almost on I-10. There was a lot of cars this morning on it.
Okay, so that's good.
That's good.
That's the point, absolutely. So here's a couple of photos. That gantry on the right-hand side, that is the main line gantry. That's the largest gantry we have that covers both east and west at the same points. Further down this roadway, that's when it splits, and you've got the individual gantries. For example, here, the gantry on the right, I believe, is at Executive Center. So those are the gantries that you'll see along the way. Here's a close-up shot of one of the gantries. So you see down at the bottom on the far left and the far right, those are the cameras that are used for the pay-by-mail transactions, and you also have readers and lights as well that are part of the system. So that is up. Final slide. These are the recent developments. Of course, TxDOT issued the interim substantial completion to Abrams Kiewit joint venture on July 31st of this year. TxDOT then opened the Border West Expressway to the public on October 3rd. I mentioned the toll deferral period. The intent there, of course, is to allow the community to use the new roadway without tolls to encourage ridership and allow citizens to become familiar with the project. Again, we want them out there riding it for free, seeing how it works for them in the best way. Currently, the RMA and TxDOT are actually discussing various operational aspects related to implementation of the toll collection system. So during this toll deferral period, that's where TxDOT and the RMA are talking about the different operational aspects. So this ties back to the idea that the landscape has changed significantly since the original MOU was signed back in 2014, right? At that point, we all envisioned the RMA would have Cesar Chavez still in operation. We have America's Managed Lanes in operation, and potentially even at that time we were talking about the Northeast Parkway being a toll facility, and then we would roll the Border West Expressway into the toll program that the RMA would operate. Of course, Chavez tolls were removed. America's Managed Lanes and Northeast Parkway are now being developed as non-toll facilities, so the landscape has changed. So we're sitting down with TxDOT and talking about those operational aspects. Does it make sense for these transactions to be routed through TxDOT's back office, for example, and those types of things? We're using the toll deferral period to have those conversations with TxDOT, and they've been a good partner as we figure that out. We're trying to figure out what makes the most sense for our region. So that's all I have for you. Just a brief update. There's no action required. I just wanted to give you some background on the project and recent developments.
Do we have an update on the final cost of the project?
I've not heard recently, but let me track that down and I'll share that with the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then what is the timeline for the reconciliation of our role, TxDOT's role, ownership, all those issues that we discussed earlier?
So we don't have one. We met with TxDOT's administrative staff, I want to say maybe 2 or potentially 3 weeks back, and we each went off with certain tasks to complete. So we don't have a firm date.
But you'll let us know once.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
We're in a better understanding of like where we're going.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the last item, you had mentioned to me that there is potentially a move to like not implement tolls at all.
Yes, ma'am. So I did hear that yesterday, and this is similar to what happened with Cesar Chavez. So I have heard that there are some folks talking about what the approach would be to leave tolls off of this facility, but I haven't heard any more details.
I just want to make sure that we're in the loop and that whatever transpires, that we're held harmless.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know that this project absorbed some of the debt from the original border highway when they
Yes,
took
ma'am.
the tolls off of that, and it was supposed to be kind of like encompassed in all of this one, the west. And so it's really important that at the end of the day, whatever the ultimate decision is, that somehow we're held harmless in terms of any financial responsibility for satisfying any debt associated.
Yes, ma'am.
Or the
So-
operation. I mean, that was supposed to oversee the operation too.
Correct.
Of the toll roads. And so we just need to make sure that the RMA's insulated and protected from any adverse impact.
Absolutely. So the way that the removal of the tolls off of Cesar Chavez happened was a very similar conversation to what you're mentioning now. There was debt that had been incurred for operations and maintenance on Cesar Chavez. So when the conversation began to remove tolls, one of the conditions that the board placed on me when I was tasked with negotiating how or if we could remove the tolls on Chavez was a requirement that the baseline requirement was that the RMA didn't come away with any debt, especially in light of the fact that without the tolls, we'd have no way to pay back
Yes.
that debt. So we would do something very similar in this scenario if and when these conversations actually become something that if they really are serious about removing the tolls, I would recommend to the board that we do the same thing and baseline requirements.
Yes.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Do we have figures, and I just can't remember them, on your projected cash flow for the toll operations?
So we did. It's called a traffic and revenue study. And in fact, one of the things I had asked of TxDOT is to update that traffic and revenue study. So let me back up a moment. When you develop a toll facility, one of the first things you do is develop a traffic and revenue study. And the whole point of that study is to identify what the projected usage would be and eventually calculate that out against the expenses and identify what, if anything, this toll road would generate in terms of feasibility and the like. So TxDOT did one back, I want to say maybe 2012, 2013, but that had certain assumptions that included Cesar Chavez as a toll facility feeding this one, Americas Managed Lanes coming online, and Northeast Parkway serving as a toll facility as well. While Northeast Parkway may not impact this, once you remove Chavez and remove Americas Managed Lanes, seems to me you would have an impact on that traffic and revenue study. So what I've asked of TxDOT, and they have tentatively agreed, subject to the estimate that we just got this morning. In fact, I'm going to share it with TxDOT, is to do an update of that. Remove Cesar Chavez, remove Americas Managed Lanes, actually plug in the real data that we had from Cesar Chavez since it operated for over 3 years, plug that into the TNR, update all those numbers, and then share that with us so that we have a real baseline to start from. So the short answer is we have a traffic and revenue study that would give you that data, but I think it's old and needs to be updated.
It seems to me that that's crucial to your negotiations that are going on right now, because
Agreed.
you have no idea what you're even talking about as far as revenue, expenses, the whole cash flow issue.
Yes, sir. And that's the argument I made at TxDOT. They've agreed. So we are moving down that path.
Mr. Boyd?
I'm really curious. I guess you don't have to necessarily identify where this movement's coming from. Is it governmental entities or community entities, or?
Yes, sir. So I think there's a letter being circulated between our state delegation, is what I've heard. I've not seen anything yet, and I'm hoping to follow up with some details soon.
All right, well, just keep us posted, particularly if there's any meetings that we need to participate in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there any executive session item?
No, ma'am. I have nothing further.
No other business? So you'll follow up to make sure we have the presentations for next month's meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Just so that we have like the most current information about what's going on within the region. And then did Tracy Ellen follow up with you?
We did. We actually met last week, and we've begun putting the program together for December.
Is there going to be any advanced survey to the board? Do you know?
She mentioned it. Haven't received anything yet, but I'll follow up with her today.
Okay. Just so that if there is, Tracy Allen is going to facilitate our planning session in December. Just if there's any expectation that she wants any advance input from us, to make sure we have just sufficient time to do that and turn it around.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
Okay, if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Can I get the time from you for? Thank you. 10:14.